Welcome back to the Linux edition of the Weekly News Roundup. This is a new slot. We're going to attempt to have it every week where we can, where we're looking at just a few of the Linux news for the week. And we'll be doing a little bit of detail. Of course, if it's not included here, it's probably included in the new midweek news shows as well. And so let's go ahead and dive right on into our discussion on Linux news. So first up, Linux SSH servers are under attack once again. There have been a few different attacks on them based on a variety of different things. These ones here are cred stuffing typically, and they are using this to install DDoS tools and various crypto miners, if not making the passwords and accessibility to the server known. Of course, SSH is one of the best ways to manage running Linux servers. I use SSH for managing all of my things on DigitalOcean, on Linode, and things like that. It's an excellent way to control virtual machines and other machines, and even machines on your own network. You know, I'll use SSH to do things on my local NAS server or any of the other machines I need to run some form of maintenance on that I don't have a specific GUI on for doing. The downside is there's been a couple of vulnerabilities recently, and some of them allowed some man-in-the-middle type attacks, and particularly looking at cred stuffing. If you have an SSH server, make sure you have a very complicated password on that, or even better, don't have a password at all and use SSH keys. That's better to do, albeit a little bit more inconvenient, and I'm more inclined to use passwords than anything else. Now, that being said, the big concern here is that a lot of people have SSH enabled on their devices and servers in ways that they do not need to. So actually on my NAS, it's disabled until I need it. I log into the GUI and then I enable the SSH. And you can do this with a lot of different things. AWS specifically has really good firewalling on their servers, where I actually added into the firewall to only allow my IP address into their SSH. And I could go in there and I could block all SSH traffic and then turn it on only when I need to. I have not actually checked if Linode or DigitalOcean have a similar thing, but if you have the ability to firewall what is accessing your server, that's another good way to mitigate against this. So ultimately though, disable SSH if you don't need it. Use keys instead of passwords. If you have to use a password, use a very complicated password, and keep an eye out for any extra tools on that server you didn't install, like DDoS tools and crypto miners and things like that. All right, so with that, next up, Peppermint OS. Of course, I've been slightly critical on the new direction Peppermint OS is going. I think it's a step in the right direction, although they had to take a couple steps back to do it, and that they're dropping the Ubuntu package base, going with Debian. I'm just not a huge fan of the direction they're going from here, because they're really trying to do too many things rather than the old Peppermint did one thing really, really well. And their new theming, their new model did draw a little bit of criticism, where people really thought it was disrespectful to the original developer, changing all of the theming and such. And so for a good Christmas present, the Peppermint team delivered to us Peppermint Classic. So if you are liking Peppermint in the old style, the old look of Peppermint, but want it based on Debian Bookworm, you now have the Peppermint Classic Edition. I have not tried this yet, but I really would like to give it a try, and I will plan on probably doing that soon. They do have the 64-bit and the 32-bit edition available for Debian Bookworm code base, and they said they did have to make a few substitutions and a few compromises here, but for the most part, they're trying to be very sticking very much to the original core theming, look, and design of the original Peppermint OS. So if you do like Peppermint and you don't like the new theming, this might be an option for you to go and have a look at. And this was a fascinating article that if Debian didn't talk about dropping 32-bit would probably have been my feature article or an external video. But I thought it'd be good to cover here. There's an eternal struggle between open source and proprietary, and 2023 really showcased this power and the perils of open source. And I'm seeing this myself as it is 2024 is just around the corner, and that means cPanel is once again raising our prices. And I had mentioned this before. cPanel is a proprietary software, but it is very, very useful for managing the number of websites that I manage. The problem is when I first started buying my cPanel license directly from them, after, of course, they jacked up the prices, that caused all hosting companies across the board to raise their prices. The number of control panels that I needed, it was double the cost if I stayed with the company I was with, which was A2 Hosting. So I spun up my own server on Linode. I bought my own cPanel license. I started doing that. I think it was 2019 or 2020, somewhere around there. I was paying $35 a month for the server. As of next month, like in a few days, I'm going to be paying $45 a month for the server. So I'll be paying close to an extra $150 a month more for my cPanel account. And so this has caused a lot of stir as the costs just keep going up and up and up and up to run web servers. And so I have started experimenting and looking at other options as well. I've been running an ISP config in production, which is not nearly as smooth or as easy to use as cPanel is. So I don't use it for complicated sites, but I have had it in production for a long time and I've never had a single server crash. I think I've been running that for 3 years now. Never had a single server crash on that. Rock solid running on Debian. The other one I've been experimenting with lately is running on Rocky Linux, and that is VirtualMin. VirtualMin comes very close to replacing cPanel, and you can buy the license. It's either $10. I think it's either $10 a month or $10 a year for a lot of features I don't really want. So I just use the community version, which is free. And then as that allows me to host more sites over there, then I will hopefully be able to add into that my list of things I will donate to, or I'll just buy the license, even though I don't need a lot of the extra functions with it just to support the project. But right now I'm still in the testing phase. I have had some crashes with VirtualMin though. I need to figure out why that is. But this is the heart of this, as companies are coming in and buying up these elements. We just talked recently, like last week or 2 weeks ago, about the simple apps, which are the orange themed applications that had no ads. They're all open source, worked beautifully, image galleries, calendars, all sorts of things. The simple apps. Well, those were just bought up by a company that loves stuffing ads and monetizing everything under the sun. And so we're probably going to start seeing the collapse of those. But what has happened is a lot of companies have gotten crazy, money hungry, and shifted to these heavy subscription models and keep on jacking up the subscription costs every year. cPanel has been consistently raising their prices $3 to $5 a year. It is becoming untenable, and I don't want to have to keep raising my clients' hosting costs, but it's going to come to the point in time where I have no choice to, because every year I'm making less and less money on hosting the same number of websites. Well, these people are doing the same thing. Of course, our prices are probably going to go up again because VMware rolling out this year, which runs most of the VMs that most of the servers on the world run on, they're switching to a subscription service model now too. And so it's going to see prices for cloud servers jack up across the internet. But what has happened is, as these companies have done this, they realized they didn't have quite the stranglehold they did, because as these big companies would start to do this, there was so much. Why am I not seeing all the extra stuff? Oh, yeah. To view this content, you'll have to upgrade your privacy policies, huh? This is a new rollout, actually. This is a brand new thing rolling out. I think it's because I'm running this here. Let me disable this for this site. I'm just going to go ahead and let some tracking nonsense through, because I want to get these pictures showing up. All right, never mind. All right, screw you. You're not going to do it anyway. We're going to go and enable it for the site. I was going to be friendly to you, but never mind. I'll just have to walk through the text. So one of them was it Unreal Engine, I think. They decided that they're going to change their model and cause all sorts of issues and nightmares for everybody. And so it started there was an open source alternative that started to trend, and people started looking at doing that. HashiCorp switched its popular infrastructure as a code software Terraform from a copyleft to block this. Of course, Matrix did the same thing. So that companies couldn't use the open source model and then turn it proprietary without passing any code up or even any support up. And so what we saw in 2023 is people trying to jack up rates and really screw around the end consumers more and more. And the end result was that more and more people started turning to the open source alternatives, and this caused a boost in the open source alternatives. And this is great for the Linux community because we are based on the open source alternatives. And I got to say, guys, for the last about a month or so, I've been down here where I have strong connections with a church here. So I've been helping them fix their soundboard issues and run the back end of their Sunday services. They're running Windows 11 on that computer back there. I could not do that. The only reason I've not destroyed that computer is because it's not mine. I mean, really, it's like constant pop-ups. It's like the operating system should not be this in your face. How in the world do people still run Windows? I couldn't do it. I wouldn't have the patience for it. And so we're seeing this drive in open source. So is this really going to be the year of Linux? Probably not. But at least we're getting more awareness of open source as the companies jack up the prices. I'm seeing more people in the cPanel forums asking for the alternatives. I'm seeing more people in, running things like Unreal Engine, looking at the alternatives. And this is happening across the board. And so this is actually really good news for the open source world. As they're trying to grab as much money as they can, they realize there is actually a limit. Especially, it's like, dude, we are all struggling. Maybe you guys need to cut the salaries of your CEOs a little bit rather than try and rape every one of your consumers for even more of their money when our prices have doubled and quadrupled. I'm looking at my food expenses. The last month is like $500. I'm trying to think where in the world did $500 go. I don't even know. But food prices have gotten so outrageous. It's insane. So that's what I have to say about that. But our feature article here is Debian preps ground to drop 32-bit x86 as a separate edition. Now, this is not ending 32-bit support altogether. That is not the point here. Also, Debian does use a few different product terms. So i386 is the Debian project's term for what most of the world would call x86 32. In other words, a 32-bit standard processor, right? As opposed to the 64, x86 64. You might see AMD 64 if you're downloading a Linux distribution. Those are all similar. x86 64 and AMD 64 are very similar. And so what they're talking about here is a drop specifically in I believe it's the kernel support, because kernel support itself is looking to drop 32-bit, but there are still ways that you can do it through virtualization and things. So they're not dropping 32-bit altogether, but by the technical realities of directions the kernel is taking, and the fact that really there's very, very few 32-bit computers coming out. There's really not even any new 32-bit computers coming out. Even most of your single board computers are now running 64-bit. Even, those are running ARM 64 more often than ARM 32. And we're getting a lot of these general shifts. Now, this also applies to the official builds, but there are several unofficial Debian builds, which are all still listed on their website as well. So all that they would basically need is somebody to support the various options and list it, and it will still be available on the site. So there are two routes to running 32-bit operating systems, as they mentioned. The first is a multi-arch option on an otherwise AMD 64 system. And the second is you can run i386 on chroot on another architecture system. So you can virtualize your 32-bit system, you can do some degree of virtualization. The overall premise, I think, is dealing more with the fact of some applications need to run 32-bit. This is why this is a big deal. Some applications still need to run 32-bit, even though you have a 64-bit system. You can run this with a multi-arch system. This is where Ubuntu stumbled a little bit I think it was back in like 2000 or so, the addition of Ubuntu dropped 32-bit support. And so a lot of functions in Wine stopped working unless you added the multi-arch. Then you had to specifically enable the multi-arch back in the system. That's the type of stuff that you have to do. But as far as running if you go out and you get a specific 32-bit only processor, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to get that directly with Debian, although they are saying that people are probably going to still support that for at least a while. And of course, this is not even something that's specifically planned for the next version, but probably out as far as 2026. So right about the time for Apophis to come by and destroy the world. So it's all good. We may never see this drop of 32-bit because Debian moves as slow as a glacier and a giant meteor is coming towards the Earth. Go figure. So with that, though, guys, there is the update on this. Still possible. It's just some of the wordings and the terminologies and things like that are going out. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we are highlighting DigitalOcean. You can use my affiliate code there, tlm.li/DOH. This is going to get you $200 in credit. Good to try out anything you want to do on DigitalOcean for up to 60 days. And you can go ahead and spin up Jitsi servers or Nextcloud servers, Minecraft servers, all sorts of fun stuff. You can experiment. Hey, try and spin up a virtual min or an ISP config if you need to run web hosts. See if you can replace cPanel and place with those. Things like that. So you can do all those things. And once you spend $25, you're going to give me $25 in account credit. And that's good enough support because I use this for some of my production servers. So that's always a benefit. With that, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.